Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, welcome to the fifth session of CRO Masterminds, a webinar series by Zoho PaidSense, the conversion optimization platform by Zoho. So, the basic idea behind this series is to make you guys meet CRO experts from across the globe. So, you get to learn different optimization techniques and industry best practices from the comfort of your desk. I'm Pavita Rajshekharan. I take care of content marketing in Zoho PaidSense, and I'll be the moderator for this session. Today, we have with us AJ Davis, who's going to be talking about the 11 questions you shouldn't be afraid to ask about your business. AJ is an industry expert in user experience strategy with a proven track record for delivering measurable value to clients. She is the founder of Experiment Zone, which provides conversion strategy and testing for online businesses. Before starting Experiment Zone, AJ led optimization strategy for Fortune 500 companies during her tenure at Clearhead. She was also the UX researcher on the Google Optimized product. We discuss all things conversion optimization on social media, so make sure to follow us at Zoho PaidSense. And finally, do give us a shout out using the hashtag CRO with PaidSense and share your feedback with us. So without further delay, let's welcome AJ. Over to you, AJ.
I'm really excited to talk with you all today, so thanks for joining our session. I'm excited also to get your questions as we go through the session, and we'll make sure to cover and answer them at the end. But if there's anything that's unclear as I'm going, please just pop it into chat, and I'll keep an eye on that and be able to clarify as we go. We're in business. All right, so here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about why we should start with questions. Why are questions an essential part of our business and helping our businesses grow? We're going to cover 11 specific questions that you need to ask and where to find those answers. And then we're going to also talk about how to use these questions and apply them to your business. And I have some bonus giveaways at the end for you as well. So I'm AJ Davis, the founder of Experiment Zone. I'm really passionate about helping businesses improve their customer experiences using analytics, research, and conversion rate optimization. And I'm really excited to share some of the specific techniques that we use today. You can find me at experimentzone.com. Feel free to reach out to me directly at aj@experimentzone.com and also on LinkedIn. And my favorite popcorn is kettle corn. So why should we think about questions? Why should we anchor our business in asking questions first? There's 3 reasons. So the first thing is that we should be curious and we should try to learn things so that we know what we're trying to learn before we go out to get the answer. So often people just start putting one foot in front of the other and they're not really clearly anchored on a specific goal or the questions that help them answer and reach that goal. The other thing that we hear a lot from customers is that they're collecting a lot of data, but they don't know what to do with it. So to avoid aimlessly collecting data and just having a pile of data that you can't take action on, by focusing and starting with questions, you'll collect data that will lead to action. And lastly, when you answer a question, it leads to an insight. And this insight provides value, which then directly translates to action and growth for your business. So just so we're all on the same page, just to kick things off with a definition, what is conversion rate optimization? It's the process of continuously improving your customer experience with the end goal that customers both have a good experience and are excited to become customers and convert. So we want them to take a specific action. And it really depends on your business for what this action can be. So it may include things like getting customers who come to your site to order on your site and order for the first time. It may mean getting them to order more on your site. It might be a lead generation, so getting them to fill out a specific form on your site to schedule an appointment with you. Or it may simply just be some email signups so you can build out your email marketing strategy. And all of these things, our goal is to understand what percentage of people are doing this today when they come to our sites, and how can we increase the percentage of people that do this on their visit, so that with our existing traffic, we can get more visitors to take these desired actions. And today we're going to be talking about 11 questions to help us achieve this. CRO is a balancing act. On the left side, I have what I represent as qualitative data, and on the right side, I have quantitative data. So what are people doing? What are the actions they're taking? What are the facts of the situation? And then why are these things happening? What are the motives? What are some of the behavioral responses that people elicit when you make changes? And so we're going to be talking about different tools that pull out these qualitative and quantitative insights throughout the presentation today. So breaking this down even further, if we think about kind of a charting out all of our different methods, on the left side, we've got qualitative insights. On the right side, we've got quantitative metrics. And then from the top to the bottom, we can look at what tools in our toolkit are going to elicit information about what people are doing, and what tools are going to elicit why they're doing what they do. So A/B testing is a perfect measure of being able to understand what is the impact of the change that I made on behavior and quantifying how big that impact is. We also have tools like analytics analysis, click tracking analysis, which help us understand those behaviors in a quantitative way. And then on the other side of the chart, we see things like usability testing, where we get a sense of why people are doing what they do. Interviews, really diving deep with people and understanding the motives, the things that are troubling them, the opportunities for your business. A concept called first impression testing, which we'll get into more detail, but the idea, what is that first impression people have when they interact with business or my landing page? We also have intercept surveys, email surveys, different tools for us to be able to collect a larger quantity of the rationale or the reasonings why people might take some actions. We also have a concept called card sorting or tree testing, which will help us really understand, is our navigation working or not? And then lastly, it's really important to also keep in mind tools that don't necessarily measure the specific behaviors or really involve customer data as much as expertise. So what are the heuristics that are being violated or being successfully done on our site? And what do experts who do this work, what do they see as well on our site? So those are also two important tools in the belt. All right, question 0. So this isn't one of the official 11 because I can't help you answer this. So what are the business goals and objectives? All of the questions that we ask need to come back to what are the goals, what are the objectives? Because we can't just randomly ask questions if we don't know why we're asking them. So I would encourage you to have this down and really objectively know, where are we heading? How fast are we getting there? And how are we going to get there? And then all the other questions will fall in line for helping you achieve these goals. So question 1, who are my customers really? If you don't know who your customers are, it's really difficult to build empathy, to build connection with them, to communicate with them. So if you can better understand who are my customers, who are the people that are really purchasing from me today, you'll better understand what their needs are, what their pain are, and how to talk back to potential customers about their needs. So how do we answer this question? There's several techniques and tools that we can use to get to the detail, to get to the bottom of who is my audience. Where are they? What are their behaviors? What matters to them? Interviews are a great technique. You can call up, have a phone call with people who have already purchased from you, ask questions about their experience, what's important to them. Surveys will help you get a more quantitative approach to this, so getting a broader lens of what across my customer set are commonalities. And analytics also provides a lot of insights into other commonalities. So you can identify ultimately what's important to customers. You can learn about attributes common among your audience and behaviors that matter to them. And you can uncover related interests, which can be really helpful for finding partnerships or looking for ways to communicate how your business fits into the broader ecosystem of your customers' lives. So an example of something you might learn doing customer research is that, for example, you may find out that your niche audience cares about health and adventure. They often travel and prioritize exercise and clean eating. And knowing this information can help impact what your images look like, the way that you approach your messaging, how you do your marketing, and a slew of other things. But without asking these questions to begin with, you're just kind of throwing darts in a dark room. And there are a slew of different tools out there available for finding people who you could interview. asking the questions to people who are coming to your site or on your email list, recording the conversation so that you can reference it later. All right, so once we know our customer, our second question is, where are the leaks in my funnel? Where are people slipping out, not becoming a customer? And why do we ask this question? Well, we need to focus our business, which is a limited resource, on being able to find and then address the biggest leaks first. So how do we do that? Analytics and behavioral data. So you can take a look at where people first come into your site, and then you can identify all the pages that they visit along the way. So the customer journey or the path through your site that customers take from somebody who doesn't know a lot about your business, someone who does know about your business, and then ultimately becomes a customer. And you can look at each of those points and understand what is the drop off between each of these points. Where is it the strongest? Where is it shifted over time? And then where you see the biggest opportunity in that data will help you prioritize where to focus. So an example of something that we see when we do this type of analysis is that we may see that there are certain pages, perhaps it's the collection pages on your e-commerce site, where customers get to that page and then they leave. And that will help us pinpoint, well, what's going on there? Let's better understand into why customers are struggling with understanding and really committing once they see this page. And there's a whole bunch of different tools that you can use around different analytics and behavioral data as well. All right, question 3. We know who our visitors are. We know where they're struggling. Now let's take a look at that first moment, that first interaction they have with our business. So when they first land on our website, it's key that we communicate, what is this business? What are we offering? Who are we offering it to? Why should we work with this business as opposed to a competitor? It's a lot to load up in a context where people have a lot going on. So first impressions have a really big impact. We know that we get within seconds of talking with someone, we have an impression that will hold on through our whole relationship with that person. And the same thing is true with websites, where if you can't communicate quickly and effectively to visitors, they're likely to bounce. And we also are in a context where there's a lot of distractions. People have their phone out, they've got their computer out, they have all these different things going on, and we need to capture their attention, communicate effectively, and take away any additional work that we might be creating for them in understanding just the basics of what our business does. So it's an easy concept to understand, but how do we actually capture data around this? Explore, is my business website really communicating and making a strong first impression? And for this, there's a number of tools, and it falls under the umbrella first impression testing. And typically you take an image of your website or a landing page of your website and you display it to someone for 5 seconds. You let them know you're going to take it away before you display it. So they'll have 5 seconds to kind of take it all in. And then you present them with a specific question at the end, like, what was this website about? How did this website make you feel? And all of those different questions will help you understand, what are visitors really noticing first about the website? Is the message really resonating with them? Are there certain emotions that are being evoked on that first impression that align with your brand, or maybe create some friction with what your intentions are? So for example, something you can learn from a first impression test is people get to our website, they understand that we're selling apparel for, but they miss the fact that we're using organic fabrics, which is our differentiator. So if we really want to make sure that people grasp that quickly, we need to make changes to that page so people both understand what we sell and why we sell it in a unique way. And there's a number of tools out there that will support first impression testing. Usability Hub has a dedicated tool called 5-second test, which will just do this test for you. And then other user testing platforms allow you to incorporate this concept, this first impression test concept, within your user study. So all these tools would be great for capturing this. You can also manually do it on a conversation with someone, present the site, take it away, and have the conversation. All right, so we know who our customers are, we know what they're doing, where they're dropping off, and now we have their attention. We've communicated effectively what the first impression is all about. So where do we go next? Well, we want to find out the end state. So we're looking at the two ends of the experience, the first impressions, and then the last thing they see. So what is it that causes our visitors to leave after they've spent some time with our site. So they've maybe found a product, maybe they've added to cart, or maybe they've started filling out a form, but then they bounce, they leave without completing the step. So what's happening? Find out. It's really important for us to get the answer to this so we can identify what's missing, what might be getting in their way, or might cause a hesitation that will ultimately be an opportunity for us to address and improve conversion rates. So to get to this, there's a great tool called exit intent surveys or intercept surveys. And what this allows us to do is that as people are leaving our sites, we can pop up a survey question and we can just ask them, why are you leaving? And you may give them some multiple choice questions if you have some ideas for why they might be doing it, or you could collect open-ended responses so you can get a broader sense of what might be causing distraction, might be compelling them to leave. But what's really key about this is that we're capturing the feedback in the moment they're leaving, which is most impactful because they'll have it top of mind. Oh, I need to go find out if they have a discount code. I saw the promo code field, I don't have one, so I'm gonna go Google and see if I can search for one of these promo codes. And that might ultimately take them away from your site and not bring them back. So then you could address that by providing an easier flow for promo codes. A second example is they might say something like, I was really confused about the shipping policy, or I needed to find out more about your shipping policy. And that also presents an opportunity to present the information that they're looking for right on page so that you don't lose them. So for example, we might learn in a survey like this that 40% of visitors who are leaving are going to go find a promo code. And so we should make it easier for them to auto apply it or to just have it directly on this page to auto include it. And if we're not using promo codes and we see this message a lot, it might be a signal that we should be removing the opportunity to fill in a promo code at this moment. And there's some great tools out there as well that will help you do these exit intent surveys. All right, so now we know what their impressions are when they first come. We know why they're leaving. So question 5, are visitors having a difficult time finding things in the navigation and moving across my website? This is a tough one for a lot of businesses. What we often find is that businesses' navigation reflects either the template they started with, so it isn't personalized to their business or their product set, or it sometimes will reflect the internal structure of the business. So this team owns this navigation category, this team owns this one, and it's just not customer-centric. So there are ways that we can get to an answer around this to understand what things are hardest for visitors to find on the site. And why does it matter? Well, if visitors are spending time on your site, they have something they're looking for, we certainly want to make it really easy for them to find it and become a customer. All right, so this concept is called tree testing. It's related to card sorting, reverse card sorting. There's a number of different names for what this is. And it's a technique where you take your navigation and you represent it in a series of questions for visitors to drill into, drill out of. So you ask them a question like, where would you find socks on this website? And then they would click through all the steps that they would expect based on the name alone of the navigation category. And then you'll get a chance to see when did they go down a certain path and have to come back up, when were they unsuccessful in finding it, and when were they able to find it very quickly, which indicates that it's very clear that they know where to go. So at the end of a tree test, you can understand what are these top areas of confusion in the navigation. And then you can ask yourself, do these correspond with things that are important to the business? So if, for example, they're having a hard time finding out your shipping information, we probably should make that more clear since that corresponds with their ability to convert or not on your site. But there may be some things that you might not be as concerned about that might boil up as the top points of confusion that customers generally aren't really looking for, and you're finding they're mostly able to find things, and then you can move on to the next question. You can also where people are lost, where they're abandoning or giving up, and overall find the findability of the products and different things on your website. So for example, if you do a tree test, you may find that visitors can easily find our core products like shoes, but they struggle to find accessories like socks and shoelaces. So perhaps this could indicate that there are other connection points to show these accessories, maybe an add-ons, maybe something else. The other thing you might want to do is to actually rethink your navigation. And so that's where an open card sort may come in, is it's the inverse of this, where you ask them to organize your categories. But the tree test is a really powerful tool for evaluating and finding where are people getting stuck today so that I can take action and improve conversion. And there are a number of tools out there that are dedicated to helping solve this question for people, so that the tree testing is available through these tools. All right, so we've got the beginning, we've got the end, we've got the movement across the site. So now that we've got a sense of, are people able to find things? Are they able to understand what this business is about? Who are my customers? We've got to ask some harder questions. And so here's question 6. Are there major points of friction that are killing conversion? Now, this is a hairy question. It's not something that we can just simply answer yes or no to with one simple tool. So the way that I like to approach questions that are more nuanced or complicated is to keep asking the questions. What else can we answer that will help us get a signal for, are there major friction points killing conversion? So why do we need to ask this particular question? Well, these friction points are the things that are preventing people from becoming customers. These are the opportunities to really make a difference for your business. These are the revenue opportunities. These are the relationship building opportunities. And if you can figure out the list of the major friction points, you are golden. This will really help accelerate your business from where it is today, but it will also help you overtake competitors who aren't thinking as strategically about their conversion rate. To answer that question, though, we've got to ask another question, because if we want to answer, is there a friction point, we've got to understand where there might be friction points so we can investigate and go deeper to understand these friction points. So what are these friction points? And why does it matter? So knowing where people get stuck is going to help us prioritize further investigation, further solving of these problems, so that we can improve the conversion rate and improve the experience with customers. And then the other question of this, and this to me is the real gap that most is forget to ask, is not just what are the points. We can make a list of all the things that are pain points or issues, and we can find out where they are, and we know now that we have them. But the question then becomes, why are these friction points? And this is more nuanced and more challenging to answer, but if you can answer, it can have a huge impact in understanding the solution you need to move towards. So knowing these problems, knowing why they're problems, makes it easier to move towards a solution that works. So you can define, this is the problem, here's why it's a problem, and then you may find actual solutions that can solve this particular friction point. All right, so this is a loaded one, right? We just covered 3 questions without even talking about how we'd go about answering them. So let's dive into this. How do we find out about these friction points or about these pain points? It's a lot of things. So we can use things like analytics, we can use things like click tracking, and we can use things like usability testing. So let me take those and break them down a little further. So what analytics will provide us is the facts. What are people doing? What pages are they on? Where are they dropping off in the overall customer journey? The things that we talked about in some of the earlier questions. Click tracking, powerful tool. And this allows us to do a couple of different things. So click tracking can result in a heat map. So you can see how far are people moving down my website. So it's like a scroll click tracking map. So are they scrolling far enough down? Do they see my calls to action? Are they able to navigate and find what they're looking for within the page? You can also click tracking heat map that shows and highlight areas where people are focusing their attention and clicking. So this will help you focus and say, are people even clicking and seeing my call to action? Are they play the video? Are they getting far enough down the page and then clicking? So pairing those two things together. So that they're getting everything they need, all the education they need, so they can become a customer. The third thing a click tracking analysis provide are videos. So you can actually watch videos of individual customers or visitors moving on your site and interacting with your site. Now, these are really, really powerful if paired with the right question. So if analytics has pointed to checkout being an issue, we can focus our click tracking observations and analysis on videos where people are in checkout. And what that allows us to do is we can watch interactions with people and really see how they're scrolling, see how they're clicking, see if they're kind of getting frustrated and clicking something a whole bunch of times, so that we can have empathy and really understand the experience that isn't the one that we have on our device or on our computer. For example, we did a click tracking video just for this exact issue. We saw there was a big drop off on checkout. And what we ended up finding was that for certain screen sizes, the sticky navigation that was at the top of the screen just basically took over 2/3 of the screen. So customers were working with this tiny, tiny space to try to fill in their name, and they're getting really frustrated and leaving. And it wasn't causing errors, so we wouldn't have captured that in any dev data. They were attempting to fill out the form, so we saw interactions across the page. And the video really brought to life the frustration that people were spending all this time really struggling, and a lot of them were giving up. And so that was a really important insight, a really important pain point that we uncovered using click tracking videos with a targeted question of why are they leaving the particular page. The last of these three is usability testing. And this is just a gold mine of things that you can uncover for your business. So a usability test, there's a whole bunch of different flavors of this. I could probably spend like a whole 45 minutes talking about this, but to keep it at a high level, there are two options for usability tests. You can do an unmoderated study where you're setting up questions for people to move through. You can do a moderated study where you're actually asking the questions and you're able to more flexibly ask follow-up questions and really dig into some of the reasons why these are pain points. What's fantastic about usability testing is you don't need that many visitors. You need about 5 to 6 participants in the usability study to glean about 80% of the insights or problems across the user flow that you send them through. And then you set up a structured script so that all of the participants in the groups are going through the same steps. So, go to the homepage, browse for a product, find a product, add it to cart, find a matching product. There's a whole series of things you can set up with the goal of saying, what is the pain points in my shopping flow and checkout? And then you watch them go through. And there's a protocol called Think Aloud, where not only are we watching like we would with click tracking, but we get them to talk about what's going on in their head. What are your impressions of this page? What questions do you have? What's coming through your mind as you're looking? And it really unlocks a lot of insights. So what we find is that sometimes when we watch somebody use a site, they won't notice something that we think is really obvious. Maybe they don't realize they can click through carousel. Maybe they don't notice the free shipping message. But there might be things that we know and we designed as someone close to the site to be really important and vital for customers. And maybe it's a banner blindness that moves them past it, or maybe there's something flashing on the screen or some specific question they're trying to answer that causes them to skip right over a piece of information. So usability testing, when done effectively, can really surface what are these major heavy things that are getting in the way of people being able to become customers. What's great about it too is it gives you the nuance of what is causing people to just have some friction along their path. So it's not necessarily things that keep them from converting or keep them from being able to convert if they have very high intent. But if it's causing friction for this person, it's causing friction for other people who may be lower intent, or they might not be as committed to buying the product, and it's just irritating. So they decide to go somewhere else to shop. The other thing it does is it gives us very specific information about what is actually stopping people, like what's broken on our site. And understanding what's broken and what's causing issues, really you've got to fast track those issues, because if you're finding things that people cannot achieve on your site that are essential to becoming a customer, those need to go to the top of the list. So the combination of these three things give us a very good list of all the different pain points, and it also lets us know why they're the pain points and what are the top points of friction. So an example insight, visitors mostly drop off on the product detail page. So that comes from analytics. So we see that customers are dropping off here. We don't really know why yet, but we see that this is where it's happening. With click tracking, we can set up click tracking on that product detail page, and we can understand that visitors aren't scrolling far enough down the product detail page to see the product video. Okay, that's great. We spent all this time and energy getting people to this product video, but we're not getting them to take action. And then, okay, we've got the question, we've got the answer to where are they dropping off? You know, what might be causing this drop off, or there's some point of friction about getting to the video. And then what we might uncover in a usability study is that they really depend on this video. So we know the video is important because we made it, we like it, we produced it and put a lot of passion into it, but we don't really know how essential it is in order to understand and become a customer. But in a usability study, we might uncover that there's a lot of confusion about our product. I don't quite understand how it works based on this description. And then you see, aha, when I saw the video, I finally understood what this was all about. So putting all these things together, you're going to say, well, how do we solve this? Well, we need to get more people to watch the video. And that gives you a really specific, measurable thing to be focused on in solving. And how do we achieve these? So we use analytics platforms, we can use click tracking tools, and lastly, we can use usability testing and survey tools like usertesting.com, Try My UI, or user interviews, which will allow you to set up those questions and to get people to move through your site and to get that feedback about where those pain points are. All right, we've got 3 more questions left. So question 9, what improvements should I make first to our site? So we have all these facts about what's going on, what's causing issues, but where should we start in making these improvements? And why do we need to ask this question? Well, we really want to make sure that we prioritize the efforts that we take to improve conversion. It's really easy to get in a room and come up with 500 ideas of things we might want to change on the site that might be a better experience. Our competitors are doing it, so we should do it. But at the end of the day, we really need to focus. And in order to achieve our goals, question 0, we really need to focus on the low-hanging fruit and the things that are causing issues today, and then iterating from that so we can put forth the best customer experience. All right, so we understand where to start. We've got to understand, did it work? And this is, again, really a way to differentiate from a lot of other companies. A lot of times companies are forgetting to ask this question. They're moving on to the next project and they're not seeing whether or not a change worked. And it matters because we need to have a plan to learn. We need to build on our understanding of what works, what our customers respond to. And if it didn't work, it's really important that we pull the plug on it and that we find a different solution. So instead of crossing our fingers and moving on to the next thing, we've got to have a plan to measure and answer the question, did this change have the impact and move the needle for our customers? Okay, well, we know yes or no, did it work? The last question I have for you today is to think about how much did this particular change improve or things? And this is really, really important as well. So it's not just did it work, did it not? It's important to understand the size of the impact. It could be we've got 10 things that all had an impact to conversion. And if we don't know which thing had the biggest impact, we might just kind of keep on the path of all 10 of those things. But if 1 or 2 of those things had a really profound impact on conversion, we should reprioritize. The things that we should work on next should really focus on things that have had a big impact and making sure we're getting the most juice out of that lemon. So what we want to do is size the impact so we can help refocus and focus on the highest impact improvements for our customers. All right, so how do we do all this? It's a 2-step process. I focus on really building out that list of test ideas using questions 1 through 8, so that you know all the different pain points, all the potential solutions to doing it, and have this list, and then take a measured and systematic approach to prioritization. It's very easy for us to just say, yes, and, oh, I want to do that. Let's all do this. But what we really want to do at the end of the day is be thoughtful and separate our brainstorming session from our test prioritization. So what you should do as a business is you should write down all the things. How do we know if this is important to us? And this may be as simple as we want things that are high impact. We want to make changes that are really going to help move the needle for conversion. It may be that you have a lot of developers or you have no developers. And so perhaps like level of effort to build the tests should be an important weighting factor in where you start with your testing. Do you have design resources? If you do, and they have availability, then maybe design that this solution needs design support is a factor or it's not. And then you also want to make sure it's on a page and a plan where people are going to actually see the change. So, and then the fifth one that I like to think about is how much evidence do we have? So we did all this work to figure out the pain points, and now we're working from that list. But some of the things are going to have more impact or more signals that they're an issue. So if we saw one person have an issue in a tree test and finding one thing that's medium importance to us, solving for that should be lower on the priority than if we saw 4 out of 5 participants in usability struggle to find the answer, and we're seeing a lot of drop off on that page. So the stronger the information is, the higher priority the test should be. So I just said a lot of things about test prioritization, and it's something that really needs a lot of iteration. And as you're learning more about what customers respond to, that should also be incorporated to the process. But you can score each ideas based on these factors, and then ultimately the strongest ideas will bubble up to the top, and that's where you should start with your testing. Testing. I feel like I've said testing like 15 times, and what I mean by A/B testing, or testing in this case, is that we actually want to split our customers into 2 groups, and we want to use a tool to be able to segment a group that goes to the control experience, which is our current website, and then half the population will see the new experience or the improvement or the solution that we're putting out in there. And then we're going to run the test until we can see a statistical difference between the 2 groups based on the change that we made. And then we'll make a decision based on data. And so we'll have a sense of how big was the difference because of this change. And was there a change? Just answering yes or no, that question number 10. And that will help us have some insights into understanding what has the biggest and strongest impact moving forward. So we want to prioritize tests that are low effort. We want to make sure they're on brand. So if you've got some ideas on your list that just aren't ever going to get approved by marketing, toss them out, put them low on the list. And we want to focus on things that are high impact. We also want to think about designing our A/B test before we begin testing. I feel like we so often just jump into our testing, we jump into our ideation, and we jump into finding solutions. But we really need to stop and make sure we understand what are all the factors that could be impacted by this change that we're proposing, and make sure that we've got measurement and plan in place so that after the test runs, we not only see, did we see more orders, but did more people sign up for the email list? Did they have more people see the video or play the video in the case of the video test on the PDP? So you want to think about what is the most immediate change that's going to happen as a result of the change we made? And then what are the things around that change that possibly could be impacted? And then you always want to keep track of your conversion funnel so that unexpected things don't happen, or that you can capture them if they are unexpected. So it might be that we're doing an email sign up test and we see conversion go down. We should probably stop and rethink our solution. And so keeping track of all those things, making sure you've got a plan in place so you understand how you'll decide if it was successful and how much it needs to be successful by before we start testing. So here's an example of all these efforts together. So we might find that visitors convert at a higher rate when we show product swatches on a collections page where we had been seeing a big drop off before. So it's an area that is a pretty low effort test to build. It's on a page with lots of traffic. And we saw that there was 5% lift to order conversion based on this change. Oops. Having trouble getting that slide to stay. One more try. There we go. So to get to all of these, we need to keep a running list of all of our test ideas. We need to score and prioritize the ideas. And then we want to use A/B testing tools that will very effectively split our traffic so that we can measure the impact of the change. All right, so we've got 11 questions to ask about your business. We've got a poll question running, so please take a moment to answer now that we've talked about all these questions. What is your homework for yourself? What are you going to be focused on for your business in this week and this month, so that way you can propel your business forward? And I'll give you guys a second to do that. All right, great. Thank you guys for answering. What I'm seeing coming through is that a lot of folks are going to be focusing on what improvements should I make to our site first? Good question. And also some questions from the beginning of the presentation. What are my business goals? I've got to write them down. I've got to really think about them. And then who are my customers really? Really digging in and understanding them. So all these other questions will be more effectively answered. And then lastly, what are visitors doing to, what are visitors' first impression of our business? These are great. It's fun to see these coming in. All right. Those are the questions for today. So just a couple of notes. If you need some help answering these questions for your business, you can find me and the team at experimentzone.com. And we're also offering a free conversion report card. We'll take a look at one of the pages of your website, and we'll give you 3 to 5 things that you can do today to improve conversion on your site based on our experiences. All right, I'm going to open it up for questions.
That was such an insightful session, AJ. Thank you so much. So you can get the right answers to your business questions only if you ask the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to AJ, now we know what the right questions are and how to shoot them out. So now we'll be taking up a few questions. If you have any doubts about the session, feel free to drop in your queries. Okay, so we have a question from Sriram. He says, you spoke about first impression research. Most of them notice only the design in 5 seconds. So do you think it's important to focus on the design over content when designing the website?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's going to be a combination of both. And an important thing to do is, even in framing the question around first impressions, you might say, what is this business about? Because it may be that the design is communicating what your business is about. It might be working against it. But if they are really trying to think and process what would this site have been about, whether it's they're more focused on words or the design, you want to make sure all those things come together in a cohesive way. So that's what the power is in doing the first impression test, is it gets both types of people that really focus on design and people who are looking for those keywords and things kind of jumping off of the page of them.
Great. So we have another question from Tiffany Banks. So she asks, can your target audience or niche be a friction point?
Oh, I may have some follow-up questions for you. So let me try my best to answer this, but feel free to clarify as a question. Can it be a friction point about your target audience? So there's a couple things that can create friction points for your business, depending on what your niche is. So it may be really hard to reach them. They may not be a very big audience, or you may not really know the right things about them. So I think depending on those 3 things, it will really change your approach for your business. So if the market's just too small, then you've got to open it up to a wider lens or adjust your offer. And if you are just struggling to communicate with them, you don't quite understand them, doing customer interviews will really help you dig in. So I had a conversation with a customer last week, and one of the things that she said was that she noticed that there was a difference between the way people perceived positive messaging and like scare tactic messaging. And so she saw initially that she thought her product was really solving something that people were afraid of, and so she should focus on that. But through interviews, she saw that this customer base was so fearful that they really responded better to people being more comforting and supportive of their fears. And so understanding your niche and really digging into like how are they approaching this? How are they thinking about it will help you overcome any of the friction with the audience.
Thanks, AJ. We have another question from Vatsala. She asks, you spoke about the importance of exit intent surveys, but do you think people will give honest answers when they have already decided to leave the site?
It's a good question. There's certainly going to be people who are just going to click it and dismiss it. So we won't even get their feedback. So it's really about just enough information to get a signal of what's the strongest compelling thing that's driving people away. In reality, comparing exit intent surveys with all these other methods is going to be much more impactful. So you'll get a sense of what are people saying are the reasons they're leaving with an exit intent survey. And then if you do a usability study, you might understand like what are some of the questions that they weren't able to answer, what are some of the hesitations they may have about your offer or about your product. And by combining these things together, you'll get a much stronger read on what people are confused about, struggling with, and what kind of things you can put in place. But in our experience, we do exit intent surveys. The one about the coupon was exactly one that we weren't sure about with a customer. They thought it might be something around their shipping messaging or that they're comparing with another competitor. But we saw overwhelmingly that people were leaving just to find a coupon code. And when we added a coupon code in an A/B test, it improved conversion for them. So it's about getting these directional signals and then validating it with an A/B test to make sure it really worked.
Perfect. So there's another question from Maria Cruz. Um, how do you handle friction points that how do you handle friction points for information you don't want to give away, like, for example, pricing?
Oh, that's interesting. So let me play that out a little bit. So let's say you don't want to share the pricing, but people are struggling and that's something that they really value. So in order to address like what kind of solutions might you put in place so that if they really need to find the pricing information, you make it easier. You can be really clear and direct in the words you use. Like click this button or fill out this form to get pricing, rather than just not talking about pricing at all. So you could have a dedicated pricing page, or you could have a placeholder where the price normally would be on an e-commerce site, and give them some sort of action or teaser that will give them that action to reach out to you or to make the contact that you're looking for. The biggest mistake we can do is to just avoid talking about it altogether. So if we just hide it and we make it impossible to find or impossible to know that it's not there, it's as important to say it's not on the, you're not going to find pricing, is as important to communicate as opposed to having them search all around for it.
Thanks, AJ. We have a few more minutes. We can take a couple of more questions. There's one from Pastor Deborah. I have a ministry and not a basic business. Is there a difference in how we can interact with our clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a follow-up question for you would be like, what's the purpose of the website? Is the goal for people to reach out if they have a question for you or to schedule some time in counseling with you? And I'll let you answer that, but I'll go forward with the idea that if you have a website, you're presenting something. So you're either presenting, perhaps there's a service that you want people to be aware of that they can go attend, or perhaps there's a mailing list where you're going to send announcements or things for people to read together. So that would be an email sign up. It might be that you want them to reach out one-on-one, and so you want them to fill out a form. So all of those things are the goal of the website or the goal of the business. And then what we can think about when we think about approaching these types of businesses with these processes is that we're not looking to achieve an increased number of people ordering on our site. What we're trying to do is to reach more people, have them understand what we're offering, and then be able to have them reach out to us. So all these principles still apply. The answers are just going to be quite different because your audience and your goals are different.
Thanks, AJ. We'll take one last question. This is from Shelby. She says, great presentation. I was just wondering how I could apply these solutions to a service-based business versus an online-based business.
Yeah, I think kind of even to the last question, it's really about understanding what objectives you want people to do in the site or in the interaction that you're having. So if we want to take these offline out of the context of our website and to a storefront, we can apply all these principles to a physical store or to a restaurant. We can ask who's coming into my door, who's looking at the menu as they walk down the street. And why are they coming in? Why are they not coming in? And you can kind of go to the pavement and bring your clipboard with some questions and just talk to people as they go by. So what's really powerful about starting with questions is that it can apply to any context, and you just have to make sure that you're being really thoughtful and strategic about applying the questions and getting the answers that are right for your business.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Deborah says, thank you. That was really helpful.
You're very welcome.
So if you guys have any more questions, you can drop them in. So I guess that's about it. So if you have any further doubts, please feel free to connect with AJ. She's pretty active on all social media. I'll share the recording of the session with you guys soon, so you can revisit the concepts we discussed, or share it with your colleagues if you found it useful. And if you have any feedback, please write to us at support@zohopagesense.com. We're pretty active on social media, so do follow us there as well. Also, we've planned a lot of interesting webinars in the coming months, and we really look forward to having you on board for them as well. So I guess that's a wrap. Thank you so much, AJ, for your time and for this wonderful session. And thank you guys for joining in today. Have a great day. Thank you, AJ.
Yeah, thanks everyone.